Calcutta, June 20th, 1757. The monsoon rain came down in heavy sheets, rattling against the canvas walls of Robert Clive's tent. The air outside was thick, muddy with the smell of wet earth and the sharp tang of gunpowder. Inside, Clive sat hunched over a battered desk, squinting at a letter from his wife Margaret back in England. The ink had run in the damp, but her message was clear enough. "I pray for your safety, and for the fortune you seek." Clive paused at that word. Fortune. He was only 32, but already he felt the weight of empire pressing down on him. Tomorrow, at dawn, he'd lead just 3,000 men, British soldiers and Indian sepoys, against the Nawab of Bengal's army, which was more than 15 times their size. The odds were ridiculous. But Clive's mind wasn't just on the coming fight. He was thinking about Bengal's riches, the silks, the spices, the gold, the endless rice fields. He was thinking about what victory would mean, not just for him, but for the East India Company and for Britain itself. Outside, Calcutta was uneasy. The British had only just retaken the city after the horror of the Black Hole incident, where dozens of their countrymen had died in a cramped prison cell. Now, the city's narrow streets buzzed with rumors and fear. Shopkeepers locked up early. Fishermen dragged their boats out of the Hooghly River. In the shadows, Indian courtiers whispered about betrayal, bribes, and secret deals made in the dark. As the rain hammered down, Clive's aide, Major Eyre Coote, ducked into the tent, his uniform soaked through. "Sir," he said, "the men are ready. The traitors are in place. Mir Jafar won't fight for the Nawab." Clive nodded, jaw clenched. The plan was set. If it worked, the Nawab's army would fall apart from the inside. If it didn't, the British would be wiped out. Clive barely slept that night. He paced the tent, weighed down by what was coming. He didn't see himself as a hero, more a gambler, risking everything on a single throw. But he knew the stakes. The fate of Bengal, maybe all of India, hung in the balance. At dawn, the Battle of Plassey began. The fields outside the village turned to mud and blood. Cannon fire thundered across the plain. By midday, the Nawab's army had broken. Mir Jafar, bought off by the British, stood aside as Clive's men pushed through the enemy lines. Siraj-ud-Dowlah ran, but was caught and killed days later. The British victory was quick and ruthless. Afterward, Clive walked through the Nawab's palace, its marble halls stripped bare. He stared at piles of gold and jewels, silks and spices stacked high. In that moment, he realized this was more than just a military win. It was the start of something much bigger, a new order where India's wealth would flow steadily to Britain. For Bengal, the cost was staggering. In the years that followed, famine and exploitation would kill millions. The East India Company, now ruling Bengal in all but name, set up a system that would drain the subcontinent's riches for nearly 2 centuries. On that rain-soaked morning in 1757, as Clive looked out over the battlefield, he couldn't have guessed the full consequences of his victory. But the die was cast. The long story of how Britain would siphon $45 trillion from India had just begun.